Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the vlog. On today's episode we are going to finish buttoning up the G35 and do a couple other small things that I've been meaning to do that aren't really related at all with the trans swap, but I've just kind of been putting off, and now that the car's up in the air, it's a good time to get to them. The first thing we're going to do is what I mentioned in the first vlog, which was put that angled O2 spacer in the vehicle and put a new oxygen sensor in so that my check engine light goes off. So as we can see down here, we have our new parts. So this is the angled oxygen sensor spacer. It locks into the spot with this nut here, and then you screw in your oxygen sensor over here. And this is just so that instead of the oxygen sensor facing down towards the road so that I can scrape another one and break it, I'm going to make it face up, and that way we hopefully won't have to buy any more oxygen sensors. And then this is the new oxygen sensor that I bought. Just a tip, a suggestion, if you're going to be buying primary oxygen sensors, which are the ones that tell your ECM how to basically tune the car and how the car is running, I would buy a good brand, preferably OE or maybe, you know, good name like Bosch. Since this is just rears, which basically just tell the ECM that the cats are working, and I don't have cats, I bought a cheap brand just to get me through so the check engine light's off. It's not really gonna make a difference in my drivability. So we're gonna get under there and install them. Alright guys, so here we are. We have our test pipe. We're going to put in our angled O2 sensor. When dealing with oxygen sensors, you can either use an oxygen sensor wrench like this one. I got this from AutoZone a couple of years back. I don't really know what the price was. Or you can just use a 22. The majority of them are 22 millimeter. If you haven't taken yours off in a while, you should probably get a full-size 22. Mine is cut in half from another project I did a little bit ago, but it'll make do. So we are going to put this in and screw it in. So right there, we're going to angle it upward so it faces away from the road, and then we are going to turn the lock nut. If I can get a 22 on there, there we go. And make sure that that lock nut is nice and tight. You do not want this falling off on you into the middle of the road. Then we're going to screw our oxygen sensor in. Alright. Then we are going to route our wiring. As you can see over here by the transmission, there's a little holder. Definitely want to make sure, usually with wire, especially ones that are under the car, you route them properly and that they're secured. That way they don't get loose, scrape on the ground, or get chewed up by something and cause electrical issues. Or in the case, if you do have, you know, a nice expensive oxygen sensor, it tears it up and then you got to buy another sensor. So we got our wire in the holder, we got our connector over here in the bracket. We're gonna plug it in, and that should hopefully take care of our check engine light. And now, as you can see, that oxygen sensor is no longer facing down but up, so we should be good. Hopefully no more scraping issues, and if anything does scrape, it'll probably be that 90-degree angle, which hopefully it's strong enough that it won't scrape through. But that is it for this project. A nice and quick, easy repair there. Let's move on to the next thing. Alright guys, so moving to the back of the car now. Our next little task here is another pretty simple one. We're going to put in some new trunk struts. When I pop my trunk, it doesn't really come up at all, and if you leave it hanging about halfway, it falls easily. It could be due to old struts. I mean, these are definitely old and worn out if you look at them. Or it could just be due to the trunk alignment being a little off. I figured I grabbed these cheap enough off of Rock Auto. Great website, by the way, if you're looking for replacement parts. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but I always love to go there, especially when I'm purchasing a bunch of parts at once. They give great pricing, shipping's usually fast and pretty cheap. So I grabbed these off of there and I'm gonna pop them in now. Installation is pretty simple. As you can see down there, there's little clips. You just pop the clips off and then replace them. Should be the same thing for hood struts if you have a car with hood struts. Just usually hoods are a little heavier, so have somebody help you hold it up while you're replacing them. So enough talking, let's get to it and let's get some new trunk struts in. Alright, look at that. Got a nice trunk that goes up on its own. That's it for this nice and quick little easy repair. Now on this side, this one fought me a little bit. It looks like the clip that came with it for this bottom piece was maybe bent or missing a tab, so it wasn't locking onto the ball. I just ended up transferring the clip from the old shock over and it went right in. So kind of like what I was saying earlier with oxygen sensors about it's nice to buy better quality parts, OE parts. These were super cheap struts, so something small and easy to fix like that, it's kind of expectable sometimes with cheaper non-OE parts. But this job's done, and now we got some better working trunk struts. Our next thing on the to-do list here is another pretty simple one, but one that's pretty important: wiper blades. Here in Florida, with how hot it is, the rubber gets dried out on them and they go bad pretty quickly. And then we get thunderstorms very often during the summer and stuff, so it's good to have good wiper blades that don't streak and actually let you see, because the last thing you want to be doing is driving in the middle of a thunderstorm and you can't see anything and you hit someone or you get hit. Now, a little life hack here that I like to use is Rain-X. You can get it in a bottle where it's just Rain-X and you kind of put it on a microfiber and apply it on, or you can get it in a 2-in-1 glass cleaner and rain repellent. This is nice because it makes the water just basically bead up and come right off the windshield. You almost don't even have to use wiper blades. Another tip you can use is if you have like ceramic coating or a good wax, you can do that on the windshield, and the same thing, it'll cause the water to bead up and just repel right off the windshield. I like the Rain-X. Some people do the ceramic coating. It's just kind of, you know, personal preference. Both are good, both work well. And definitely if you live in a state or a place where it rains a lot, they're both must-haves. Good wiper blades and both Rain-X. So we've got our wiper arm up and we're gonna replace our wiper blades now. I know for some of you watching this, you're probably like, wow, really? Wiper blade replacement? It's super simple. But I'm sure there's probably some of you out there that have never replaced your wiper blades. I actually had a guy a couple years ago that, from the looks of it, had never filled his own tires up with air. So I was at a Wawa waiting in line for the air machine. He actually walked over to my car and asked me to help him fill up his tires. So, you know, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. You know, you only learn by asking. Or, you know, in today's age, whip out your phone, either Google or YouTube, and find a video. Now, a couple tips here for wiper blades if you've never done them yourself. If you buy them at like AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts, any of those you know, like major chain auto parts stores, they will usually install them for free, so that's nice. The only downside to that is usually wiper blades are like 20 to 30 bucks there each blade, for, you know, kind of a nicer blade. These that I got were the Bosch XL Plus. I got them off Rock Auto and they were like $6 a piece, so like a fraction of the price. So like I said, in Florida these wear out pretty quick, so I don't really feel like spending 30-40 bucks a blade every summer. So Rock Auto is a good place to get them. The only downside to that is you don't get the free install. So if you're going to be doing them yourself, sometimes you'll have an attachment like this that you may need. I already checked on my car and we don't need them. This is super simple. For some cars you might have to put your wiper blades up like halfway because your hood won't let you pop them up. On the G, I can just up and down. And then if you come in here, you see this little tab, you're just gonna push that and then slide your wiper blade off. So we're down and we are out. Make sure your wiper arm doesn't come crashing down and crack your windshield. That would not be for a good day. And then on your new blade, which we'll see here, down here, this has that little tab I was pushing on lock. You're just going to come in, slide it in through the hole, come up, and you should hear it snap, kind of click in place. You guys heard that. You want to double check that it's not loose or anything, and then just bring her right down. Boom, new wiper blades. All right, the next thing we are going to do is adjust our parking brake. I did rear brakes on this car when I first bought it, and I didn't adjust the parking shoes. This uses a what they call a drum in the hat style parking brake, which basically means that the inside of your brake rotor, the center, is like a drum, and then there's parking shoes inside, and when you pull up your handbrake, the shoes expand and hit the drum and stop it from spinning. So since I didn't adjust mine, they're a little loose. My parking brake doesn't really hold the car, so we're going to adjust those and get that going. Our first step obviously is take off the wheel. So coming inside the vehicle, I'm going to show you now my parking brake. If you count the clicks, it's got a lot of clicks. And then if we come out of the vehicle, you can see that I can still kind of turn the tire by hand. It should be nice and tight. You shouldn't be able to move that at all. So I'm going to show you guys how to adjust that and get rid of all that slop. Alright guys, so once you get your wheel off, you're going to want to take off your caliper and the mounting bracket. So that is going to be 219s. There's going to be one up here and another one below. You're going to take those off and then swing this out of the way. Take your rotor off, and then we'll be able to see our adjustment. Alright, so now that our caliper's out of the way, make sure you put it somewhere safe where it's not hanging and putting all of its weight on that rubber hose, the rubber line, because you could damage the line. So I got it up here on our upper control arm. We're going to take off our rotor, and if we take a look in there, if we take a look at the inside of our rotor, you can see how there's like a brake drum in here. There's material for the brake shoes to lock up against. So our brake shoes are here, and this is our adjuster. And basically what we're doing is we're going to turn this with a flathead screwdriver and make these go out a little more. That way there's less slack that the handbrake has to take up before it engages against the drums, and our parking brake actually holds and does a good job. So we're gonna get a flathead in there and get adjusted. So basically what you want to do is, you should only have to go probably a couple of clicks unless you're way off, but you want to adjust it until when you're putting on your rotor there's kind of a little bit of drag, and when you spin it there's a little bit of drag. You don't want it to be so tight that it doesn't move at all, because then you're going to be dragging your brakes and wearing them out as you're driving. But I mean, I don't know how well you're going to be able to tell from the video, but if you can see, as I'm putting my rotor on, there's kind of a little bit of resistance, and then it still spins, so we're not fully locked up. And what we're going to do now is we're going to pull up our handbrake and make sure that once our handbrake is up, this side does not spin, and we'll know that we're adjusted right. Alright, so I have my parking brake up, and now, as you can see, I'm not really able to spin the rotor by hand anymore. So our parking brake's doing its job. I'm going to go adjust the other side, and then we're going to put our wheels back on and go test it. Another adjustment that these cars have is if you open up the cup holder here, and then with a flathead screwdriver or like a little pocket screwdriver, maybe even your nails, you take this trim piece off. If you look in there, there is going to be a 10mm nut, and you can get your socket on there and turn it in or out, and that will adjust the point at which your handbrake engages. So I already adjusted mine, and I adjusted it to be about halfway up, maybe like 5-6 clicks. Before I adjusted it, it was way like up here. So you know, that's another adjustment you can make if you don't like where your parking brake is locking up at. I wasn't really happy with mine, so I adjusted mine a little bit. Alright, the next thing we're gonna do is rip out this lower fender liner that's just kind of hanging there, and get rid of that so that we're not rubbing on it anymore. And then we are going to zip tie my bumper back up. The mounting points here, well, the forward one's busted, and the rear one I just don't even have a bolt for. So we are going to do the good old JDM fix-all method and just zip tie her back on. And now we can throw this in the trash. And if you guys look up here, let me get the light on it. Pretty sure this car was probably in like a minor front end fender bender at some point. So we've got one mounting point here and another one way forward up there, which both of them don't have bolts, so my bumper sags. So these zip ties I put on here before are actually still holding up, so I'll probably just put 2 in the forward spot to tighten up the gap a little bit and call it a day. Alright guys, so as you can see, we finished buttoning up just about everything I wanted to do on the G. It is outside. Unfortunately, there will not be really a first drive video yet. I'm having an issue with the crankshaft sensor not picking up the flywheel, so it's not starting with my crank plugged in. I can get it to start with the crank plugged out, but I don't really want to do a first drive like that. For moving it around, I know I have all the gears and everything else is working fine though. So we're gonna end the vlog here. I'm gonna try to figure out what the problem is and get it fixed.